Hey beautiful people, today we're here to talk about how to put your leadership skills on a resume. So this is a super important topic for you because if you're making the move from an individual contributor to a manager or from a manager to a leader, you need to be able to clearly distinguish what your leadership skills are, and I want to help you be able to do that and put them on a resume if you're looking to make that kind of move. So if you still think that listening is just a soft skill and you don't see it as an incredibly powerful leadership skill, then I want you to listen to this video. It's also important to recognize that your title, even though it might be important and it'll give you a certain understanding of kind of what level you've risen to in any organization, it's also hugely important to realize that your title is just that. It is not necessarily your contribution. I want you to understand the difference. Lots of people think that leadership and management are kind of the same thing, only maybe bigger. I really want to help you understand the difference between management, which is something that you do even when you're a leader, and leadership, how it relates to management. By the end of this video, you'll move beyond what are the buzzwords that people suggest you put on resumes to what are actual leadership qualifications that you should definitely highlight on your resume. I want you to also be able to understand how to describe a leadership role and talk about it as the leadership responsibility that you took. I want you to learn how to be able to use data and also action-oriented terms to be able to talk about what you did with your leadership opportunity. I want you to be able to understand how to integrate leadership throughout your resume so that people see you, when they read your resume, they see you taking leadership opportunities over a longer period of time than before when you got the actual title or you're looking for the actual title. And then I want to help you make the mindset shift from leadership being charging ahead and telling people what to do to leadership actually being carefully crafting and cultivating your contribution to your company, to your team, to your society as a whole. So you've probably heard the term of self-leadership. So self-leadership is really you taking a level of autonomy and agency for yourself, which is your first step in true leadership. It's you leading yourself. And when you start leading yourself, what you start doing is you start asking yourself questions that any good leader would ask you. What do you want to accomplish? Why do you want to accomplish it? How are you going to add value? How are you going to get yourself appreciated within your organization? What can you contribute to other people around you? What do you see missing that you have that they don't have? And it's that conversation where you begin to ask yourself, how can you add value across the organization? How can you engage differently with people so that you're contributing and adding value to them? That level of self-leadership where you begin to reflect and do inquiry for yourself is your first step towards leadership. And once you master the art of self-leadership, then you're ready to be able to lead others. I remember when I first made my shift from being an individual contributor to being a team leader, one of the things that I noticed, and this would have been in my early 20s, but one of the things that I noticed was that I was moving from talking about us and them to talking about we. So whenever something was broken before and I noticed it in my work, I always figured that it was because somebody in the leadership role wasn't doing what they needed to do and it wasn't my fault. Once I moved into managing people, even if it was only 2 or 3 people, I started thinking in terms of we. So I think you can make that shift for yourself fairly easily. You're there, you're in the workplace, you're contributing, you work there, you've got your name associated with it. If something isn't working the way you want it to do, don't necessarily just point it out like it doesn't belong to you. See whether or not there's an opportunity for you to be able to take a leadership position in terms of resolving something that provides inconvenience or trouble or friction for other people around you and for yourself. You can also very effectively showcase your leadership through quantifiable results, and I've talked about quantifiable versus quantitative results in other videos, but once you start paying attention to your company as a whole, as opposed to just your individual role within it, you're going to start asking yourself fabulous leadership questions like, how successful is our company? How big is our company? How many people work for our company? I have interviewed people who want to come and work for me, and I've said to them, so how big is your company that you're currently working for? And they don't know. If they don't know that, that's a red flag to me that they're not paying attention to the bigger game that they're playing in. Now, I don't expect people straight out of college and this is their very first job to do that. I love it if they do. I don't necessarily expect that, but if they are a level above that, I absolutely expect them to know. It's pay attention to what's around you and see where the opportunities are for improvement and where you can make offers to add value. As you begin to showcase your leadership through quantifiable results and you start putting numbers around the impact that you have, those are the numbers that are going to go on your resume. So if you're highlighting what it is that you've done as a leader, make sure that you have some quantifiable things under your belt. When I'm reading a resume, and remember, your resume gets about a minute. When I'm reading a resume, I'm looking for, are they doing the qualitative leadership skills that I consider to be important? And are they also exhibiting the quantifiable leadership skills that allow me to be able to see that they understand that a business is in the game of making money and delivering shareholder value and customer satisfaction? If they see their role in that, then I want to pay attention to them and I want to talk to them. You can also integrate leadership skills throughout your resume. So once you make this mindset shift that I'm inviting you to make from someone who is managing tasks to someone who is leading people, you can go back through every position in your resume and look at where you exhibited leadership capacity. And it can be just leading and advocating for yourself. So for example, if your first job out of school was working for a small agency of some description, and you identified that there was an opportunity to be able to provide a higher level of customer service through a listening intake survey that you did, for example, and you say, I led the process of building this intake survey and we produced a higher level of customer retention, and you give a number as to what that is. Now what I'm seeing is this person is able to see the bigger picture, they are customer focused, they started doing this really young, they took the initiative to do it, they made the offer to their boss and they delivered on something that was of value to the company. And you can rewrite, absolutely telling the same truth, but you can rewrite your resume through the lens of leadership in a way that shows that you've had these qualities all along, which you more than likely have. You're just learning how to exhibit them more clearly now. So the action-oriented language thing in resumes, I think it's great, but honestly, you can go overboard with it. I was reading a resume the other day and the person was driving something and the person was producing results, and all of those things were true and fantastic. But I also like to see a balance in there where someone is growing people, where someone is listening to customers, where someone is doing more of what are referred to as the soft skills, and we get a balance between the driving leadership skills and the cultivating, growing leadership skills. That balance is incredibly valuable in a leader because it means they have a level of self-reflection and a level of emotional maturity that allows them to be able to both grow people and lead people and drive results. So as you make the mindset shift and you think about, how do I show leadership on my resume? What you're doing is you're moving from simply listing accomplishments or simply listing traits to actually demonstrating your impact and demonstrating how you produced that impact. So for example, if you led a project, and kudos to you if you did, but you led a project, it had 2 or 3 people on the project team, and you produced a certain incredible result. What I also want to hear from you is how you at the same time manage to engage differently with your customer, how at the same time you manage to grow your people. So the more complete description of that would be, I led this project to produce these amazing results. 2 of the people on my team were new, I grew them to this next level, and we improved our customer engagement by whatever number it was. Now, that takes up more space on a resume, but instead of giving me 15 bullets about tiny little things that you accomplished, I'm much more interested in how you went about it and how you added value for the organization as a whole while you were doing it, and also how you grew yourself as a leader in the process. So as you think about how you put leadership on your resume, help yourself make that shift to looking at leadership as leading people and looking at tasks as something that you manage, and then make that difference for yourself and look through your entire resume and rethink some of the work that you're talking about through the lens of leadership. To help you do that, I have an assessment below, which is called my Get Promoted assessment. It starts this reflection process in terms of, am I ready to get promoted? Am I ready to take on more of a leadership role? The link is down below in the comments. It's also www.getpromotedassessment.com. I hope it's useful for you. Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you back on this channel soon.